This is the story of Ralph Evans and his wife Mary Goss, the parents of our Nana Dorothy Wood. Ralph came to Australia from Wales in I think about November 1871. He'd been born in Wales in 1851 to parents Roland Roberts and Anne Jones. At the moment we don't know what boat he came on, but I believe he probably arrived in November 1871.
This is the town that my great-grandfather Ralph Evans came from, and so this is another pilgrimage.
Researching Ralph Evans, because he changed his name from Ralph Roberts, I believe that would have been his name, to Ralph Evans. The family history said that he was unprepared to give a new wife his name of Roberts after he had had a previous love affair in Wales. Or was there some other reason? Grandma Mary Goss, great-grandma Mary Goss, her history is similar in many ways. We can't find her birth certificate, we can't find her father's death certificate. The family history was that she was born on the boat coming out from Germany in 1861. Her mother was Maria Donges, married to Herman Goose or Goss, and they arrived with her brother, and they came from the town or little village of Birkenbrickenhausen in Germany. However, the family Bible, or Ralph's Bible, shows Mary as having been born in 1863. And we know from other certificates she was born at Bombaldry, but we can't find her birth certificate, nor again her father's death certificate. We know that Maria, a year or two later, married Johann Hess, who's also from the village of Birkenbrickenhausen and had come out earlier with another of the Dongeses. Seem to always carry the name Mary Goss, though in other certificates it does show Mary Hess. This is Ralph Evans, my great-grandfather's diary, when he came out in the boat from Carnarvon. The diary of Ralph Evans that Nana gave me was all in pencil and is in Old Gaelic. Therefore, when I've tried to get it translated, people who can read Gaelic had a great deal of difficulty because it's Old Gaelic. However, there is, in one of the pages there is a little poem to Sister Jane. Good night, my dearest one. Sleep well all through the silent night in the bed of white sheets. I am here in this country that I know nothing about. Give my wishes to Harry. Initially they lived out at Mount Macdonald, which is about 20 odd k's south of Woodstock, sitting up in the mountains overlooking the Wyangla Dam, where there was a goldfield. And I remember going there with my Nana and her sister Dorry and my parents when I was in my early teens to have a look at the area. And I remember Nana pointing down into a gully full of trees and saying that's where we used to live. They used to live at Green Gully, just on the edge of Mount Macdonald. And it was pretty rough country. She often told me about living in a split timber hut with hessian on the inside, and they could hear the snakes in the walls. Her father often went away to other goldfields. She always said that he was a gold assayer. He is listed as a gold miner. Later on, then they moved to Woodstock, where he had 2 5-acre lots right in the edge of Woodstock, just backing onto Woods Flat, which was the initial town of the area, which was the original goldfields. It was here that Dorrie was born, the youngest child, and it was then that Mary Goss died of loss of blood a few days after that, 4 or 5 days after the birth of Dorrie. So the family then had to look after 2 young babies. So our Nana became the mother of Doris. She was a 16-year-old girl, and Dorrie was a newborn babe, and Laura looked after Millie, who would have been about 3 years at the time. Nana used to recount having to take the little baby by train to Carcoar, to the hospital of Carcoar. The eldest girl, Polly, married not long after her mother had died. It was a harsh life. Mary came from a large family, and we have photographs of all her siblings, and some of those photographs are in the Mandurama, or from the Mandurama collection, a famous historical photo collection taken around 1900, and are now in the possession of the Australian National Library. Mary Goss's grave on quite a few occasions, probably 4 or 5 occasions. I've been to cycling in the Woodstock area. I remember visiting it when I first went there with Nana, our Nana. At that stage it was just a little rise in the ground on the edge of the cemetery. Since then, Dorrie's husband made up these rough grave tops, and had them marked. And as I said, I've been there on a number of occasions, and I'm quite moved whenever I go there, just to think how harsh a life our Nana had living out in the country in those days. Nana Wood passed on some coins to me. They were, these are coins, English coins here, one 1851 and 3 1854. Mary Goss was brought up in the Hesse family, who lived at Burnt Yards, north of Mandurama. Johann Hess is listed as having died at Limestone Creek near Walleye, which is a bit further west than Burnt Yards, but that might have been, Burnt Yard might have been the common name they used for that area. Maria Donges and Johann Hess are buried at Lyndhurst Cemetery, not far away from Woodstock. on in life went to live in Narrabri with his eldest son Roland, who was a engine driver on the New South Wales Railway. I visited Narrabri last year and filmed Goobart Street in Narrabri near the railway, and I've located some what I believe would be old railway houses where there's every possibility that Ralph would have lived with his son. We know that Ralph had a cousin out here. We've got photographs of him and his cousin, Jack Jones, or I think it was. His mother's name was Ann Jones, so certainly the Jones family came out here and lived in Sydney. We are pulling towards the African coast. Today we saw about 100 or more fish. They were called porpoise. Many are large fishes, about 3 yards in length, and some of them jumping about 7 to 8 yards out of the water. We also saw birds swimming in the sea.